happy Guru Purnima. It's Guru Purnima in India, so we get to celebrate it over 3 days, today, tomorrow, and day after. So I kind of like it being immersed in that spirit. Today we are going to complete Shloka 52 and 53 on Karma Yoga, and with that, from Shloka 11 to 53, we actually covered Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga. So you would have covered what is the main essence of chapter 2. And actually, the verses 11 to 53 represent the rest of the Bhagavad Gita. So I would recommend that you review these verses and be very clear on each verse on your own as part of your mananam. Those who become familiar with verse 11 to 53 find the rest of the Bhagavad Gita much more exciting, and things connect much more. So, and you're also welcome to bring up any questions in your review process. What I would need is for you to type them up and send them to me so that I can maybe take up your questions as they come up. I might be in an advanced, like I might be in chapter 3 or 4, but you might still have questions from verse 11 to 53 for me. And I'd be happy to take them up and make sure that you all have crystal clear clarity. So I'm very excited that we are going to complete this piece, and then let us see how many more verses we can do after that. So I'm excited for that. So let us chant, and let us remember Narayana. Om Narayana Samarambham Vyasa Shankara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaita Mritavarshaniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayanim Amba Tvamanusandadami Bhagavata Bhavatveshanim. Shri Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. So, in the last verse, verse 51, which is a very special verse, Sadasyas, because it doesn't leave Karma Yoga as the goal in itself. The whole Bhagavad Gita begins with Jnana Yoga, then it brings in Karma Yoga, and then it again with verse 51 kind of shows us that Karma Yoga, the grand end of Karma Yoga is to prepare us and lead us into Jnana Yoga. And therefore in verse 51, we looked at the various stages that occur due to our study with Karma Yoga, and 5 stages occur, and I will quickly review them. The first stage is you become buddhi yukta, your buddhi, your faculty of higher reasoning starts working, higher thinking, buddhi. And what happens? How can you know that? Because the proper attitude towards internal growth versus material growth, both are important. But if you had to have a choice, you would choose internal growth. Say it ever came to that. You will not choose material growth and suppress your internal growth. You will not compromise your inner self for a few dollars or a little bit of, fame. ephemeral fame. So one is you become buddhi yukta, and in our karma yoga tradition, you have buddhi if you have clarity on whether artha kama is important or dharma moksha. They are both important, but dharma moksha is more important than artha kama. This becomes very clear to a mature human being. You are buddhi yukta. So this is the proper attitude: inner growth versus outer growth, dharma moksha over artha kama. Please be very clear on that. This is the first stage. This shows that buddhi yukta means you have become mature. Mature people already make better decisions. They don't make decisions and have oops moments because they have this clarity. The second one is called as karmajam phalam tyaktva. They give up, because of this clarity in the first stage, they give up the worrying about the material results. They do all the right things because they are mature people. They don't cut corners. They don't not do hard work. They don't do their research and their effort. But they also have given up tyaktva. They have given up the phalam, the fruit of worrying about the fruit or the results of the karma, of material karmas. So they are not so worried. They are doing what they do, but if it comes, it's welcome. If it doesn't come, it's also welcome. So the second stage, which means they're becoming more equanimous, because they already know that in the scheme of things, material things will come and go, and I'm not going to lose my sanity over it. The third stage, which is now showing, then these are all words from the shloka, by the way, from verse 51. So the third stage is manishinaha bhutva. Manishinaha means, manishi means to a teacher. Then what happens is these people, because they are not so concerned and consumed about artha kama. People who are consumed about artha kama are not in the Vedic studies program anyway, to begin with. They even have it hard to make it to the satsang at times because artha, job, etc., or kama, relationships are consuming them all the time. But the one whose dharma moksha is becoming more clear, they are the ones who will submit themselves to what? To the next stage, to dharma and to moksha. So they will go to a dharmacharya and a vedacharya who will teach them about dharma moksha. Naturally, you can't learn them. Dharma moksha is an internal intuition, but you have to learn about them. You need sacred instruction. So manishinaha bhutva means they submit in the third stage to education, and they start asking questions like, who am I? What is my relationship with the world? What is my relationship with God? Is God and my true self one? And for all this, they go to a jnani. Manishi means who is a jnani. So they go to one who has atma jnanam. And for example, Shankaracharya was also, he must have gone through these stages. And then when he reached the third stage, he traveled from Kerala, he traveled to Tamil Nadu to find Bhagavanapad, his teacher. He traveled by foot. He traveled thousands of miles by foot to find his teacher. He met many teachers, and finally he interviewed them, met them, and finally when he met his teacher, he knew this is my teacher. And so then he stayed with Bhagavan Pad until Bhagavan said, you can now go. His name was not God. Bhagavan, sometimes we give the name Bhagavan. So he submitted himself. So this is what a third stage does. So Karma Yoga gives focus once Artha Kama issues calm down, Dharma Moksha flower, and as a result, one goes to a Jnani, Manishi, and submits themselves. As a result of the education, the fourth stage begins, which is called Janma Bandha Vinirmuktaha. This is another word in the shloka. These are all statements in the verse. This verse is loaded with these stages. So Janma Bandha Vinirmuktaha is the fourth stage, which says that as a result of the knowledge, the shackles, the chains of samsara in your mind, raga, attachments, moha, all these things start calming down. And two kinds of samsara start calming down. One is in the mind, which causes sorrow, and the other kind of samsara is the transmigration, because when we are artha karma, when we are karmis, we are not karma yogis, we perform all kinds of selfish and self-absorbed actions, because of which we get caught up in the chain of karmas. But when you are a karma yogi, our ego becomes connected with God's ego. It's an egoless position, so karmas don't come to us. So we start becoming free, or we start setting that potential or the journey of becoming free from the bigger samsara, and the smaller samsara starts happening in the fourth stage. So this is called the fourth stage. And the fifth stage is known as anamayam padam gachanti, where at death of this person. So this person, because of fourth stage, is already calm, because he's not free. He or she is free of samsara. They are spontaneous. They are free. They are enjoying themselves. They are relaxed. They are not controlling things. And in the fifth stage, it is known as when the death of the body comes, because even if you're free, because of prarabdha or activated karmas, the body might live 10 years more, 20 years more. And the body will decay, etc., because body is under the laws of physical nature. So even a jnani's body will decay, will age, will have some disease for the death to take place. But the disease will not cause distress and drama in the mind. And so at that time, we have videha mukta. Videha means body. Mukti even from the obligation to be trapped inside one body. Okay, which is aging, which needs to, eat all the time, sleep all the time. So one gets free even from the body. In the fourth stage, one was free from the mind. But in the fifth stage, one is free from the body also. So complete freedom takes place. So this verse 51 is very important. And these 5 stages, even if you remember the Sanskrit terms or not, you should review this video and remember these 5 stages, that this is how they have shown Karma Yoga. And this is a death knell on the teachings of Karma Yoga, where Karma Yoga is a standalone teaching opposed to Jnana Yoga. That Jnana Yoga is only for intellectuals, Karma Yoga is for hardworking people. This is a travesty to teach Karma Yoga at such a minimalistic level. Karma Yoga is always a preparation for Jnana Yoga. Otherwise, if you can't get the ultimate Jnanam, if you can't find God inside you, then just to be good-hearted and kind-hearted in your actions, it's fine, but it doesn't lead to the big gift, which is Jnanam, the ultimate Atma Jnanam. So that is the beautiful thing. So now verse 52 and 53 are really simple verses, which I will like to lead you through. Verse 52. Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavasya shrutasya cha. Moha kalilam. In this, we are saying that Lord is saying, when your buddhi, intellect, it goes beyond the mist of delusion. The mist of delusion is moha kalilam. Kalilam means like a fog. And moha, is like a delusion, confusion, lack of clarity. Moha kalilam. So when your intellect goes beyond the mist of delusion, then you will attain what? Nirvedam. Nirvedam is another word for dispassion or detachment. You will develop nirvedam towards what is yet to be heard, like what more promises are made to you and what is already heard. So let me explain this to you, okay? So moha kalilam is the confusion that we all human beings deal with, not just you or me. Humanity deals with it. And what is this kalilam? As I addressed before, it is a basic confusion because of the forgetfulness of who we are, that what is our priority. So we, from the birth, from kindergarten, we start getting trained to chase artha kama only. We are always in survival mode with our relationships and with our money, always. And with kama also, we are never having enough. So this kalilam happens because we are confused and our priorities are confused, that what is more important, dharma moksha. Dharma moksha should be more ideally important, because dharma gives us the basic tool set to even live in the jungle of human existence. And moksha tells us how to get out of it, the exit door. Otherwise, we're just going wrong. We are just lost in a jungle. And artha is just like how to live in the jungle, survive. And kama is how to pass time in the jungle. But Dharma moksha teaches us how to be really on top of it, how to change the paradigm. Then, so this moha kalilam, because of this confusion, because we are lost in artha kama, so many impurities have settled within us. We have made so many choices, so many, if you go back and think, if you knew this knowledge that dharma moksha is more important, your life may not have taken some of the turns and some of the sorrow. And already, if some of you are following more dharma moksha over artha kama, in small things, like even in your relationship with your partner or your parent, instead of looking at artha kama, you might stand up for dharma and speak your truth or support them from a genuine heart, and you will feel a difference. May I see hands if you agree? There you go. So if we had this clarity, we would not have this delusion, this fog, this painful impurity, the moha kalilam, this, so we would not have this. So he says that so he says that once this, because of all this teaching that we had on karma yoga, first jnana yoga, then karma yoga, so these are kind of winding up shlokas where he says that, because things have settled down, you will have nirvedam. Again, remember, say the word nirvedam. It is another word for vairagyam, okay, detachment. Sanskrit is a very rich language, so it's another word. You will come across many words. So you will have automatic dispassion towards what? Towards all the promises that you have been hearing, that if you do this 10-day course, then you will have the love of your life. The soul mate will walk in. And if you don't have delusion, you'll say, right, yeah, right. And I'm just going to wait for my soulmate to walk in. I need to be my own soulmate, so you won't get so, first you'll get caught up. Somebody will come and rescue me. Then you'll be disappointed if that person doesn't rescue. Instead, this time, if you're clear, when you go to meet the so-called person, you will not put them on a pedestal to be your soulmate. You will not need them to rescue you. You can really meet them and accept them for the human being that they are, vulnerable with potential for enlightenment. You can be kind to yourself and to the other. You need not be disappointed with that person, scream at the person, bang your head against the wall. Why? Because such a false belief system that somebody will come and rescue us. It's just, these are fantasies. These are fantasies created. Generally, one of the most sacrificing person when we come on this planet is generally 9 out of 10 times is the mother. Would you agree, hands? 9 out of 10 when we are infants, and 7 or 6 times out of 10 father also. So I wish it was Satyuga and I could say 10 out of 10. But still we can say mother is one of that. In the animal kingdom also we see mother, and she is also biologically conditioned to do it. Right? God makes sure that when you are very infant, the mother wants to be with you. It is all being managed by Ishvara. That is why mother is given more importance than Acharya in our tradition. So we say Matra Devo Bhava, then we say Pitra Devo Bhava, now we say Acharya Devo Bhava. Nowadays, in Kali Yuga, mother and father sometimes are not able to give that much support to us because they have not got that much love. So then we are not, but still we can say that they have sacrificed more, that we are standing. That is why we have Pitri Yajna. So what happens is that because of this clarity, because the delusion, mist of delusion has calmed down, there is automatic vairagyam or automatic nirvedam towards things that would have otherwise taken us. And all our external dependencies on various things. And again, Krishna is talking about some of the promises that are made even by the beginning portion of the Vedas, where they say, okay, if you do this yajna, you will achieve a son who shall support you in old age. If you do this yajna, you will have a lot of wealth. If you do this yajna, or if you do this exercise, this will happen, that will happen. So all those promises. And in today's world, okay, if you invest in so much real estate, then you can have so much benefit in your in 3 years from now or 30 years from now. But what if an earthquake happened in California? Then what's the point of investing in real estate? So what happens is we start developing vairagyam. Doesn't mean disgust, but vairagyam means we no longer have raga. We no longer have non-strategic investment in something that is already insecure. So we are already moving away. We have a natural movement away from a dispassion towards two kinds of things. The one is Shrotavyasya. In the second line, Shrotavyasya means that which you hear from the Vedas. They are not bad, they are not evil, they have a place. But remember, you are moving towards Atma Jnanam. So at that point, you are no longer looking for just some, richness and, child and all of those things. You're going beyond. So you no longer are swayed by promises in the early portion of the Vedas. And the next word is Shrutasya, which means nor by others. And others here he doesn't clarify, but I think others means all the vendors of life's goodness, goodies. You don't have this conflict anymore. So what happens is, this is called Nitya Anatya Vastu Viveka. This is called Viveka, that we start having a real clarity, because until we had studied Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, we were going everywhere for our happiness, you see. And we were even in a spiritual realm, we were saying, okay, let me do this puja, let me do this pilgrimage, let me wear this expensive mala, let me wear this expensive gem, let me create this rich temple, let me donate, then I'll feel peaceful. All those things are good, but do them for the joy of it, not because they are going to support you. Why? Because these are all external dependencies, and you realize that they cannot be your source of serenity. It lies within you. Any kind of psychological dependence except on Ishvara and your own self afterwards is really risky. So you develop, you develop a natural vairagyam. That is all he's saying. So in 52, he's just saying that you become pretty smart. You are not led by, small things. You should go with me to India, and you should go with me to some pilgrimage place. And the moment you get down from the bus or the train, hordes and hordes of white wearing, saffron wearing, red wearing, orange wearing, sadhu-like people will, just come on to you. And they'll say, come, I will tie this thread on you and your neck will be fixed. Come, I will give this mala to you and all your problems will go away. Come, I will do this yajna for you. It will take 3 days and $5,000. And you don't know that, say 10 people came out of the train, 8 of them will go that way. They will choose different vendors. They will choose different vendors of spiritual benefit, and they will go. Similarly, I am pretty sure that in other religions also we have these kind of promises. Am I correct? Yeah. And even now in the modern sense also we have some promises like, if you take this workshop, then you can attract what you want. If you do this feng shui, then, your situation will sort out. You just have to buy this pyramid and this hanging glass, and then you have to hang it in the northeast, and then this will fix. And if you wear this mala with these kind of gems, then this planet will get solved. And all these things we were doing. But because of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, everything starts calming down, because you realize, look, it's all in my attitude. It's in how I, how I'm going to be not just an actor on earth. I'm going to be a divine actor on earth. And I'm going to, lead my life with much more wisdom. So a natural vairagyam arises. This is what we are saying here. The verse 53 is Shruti vipratipannate yada sathasyati nischala samadha vachila buddhihi tada yogam avapsyasi. Again, Shruti vipratipanna te yada sthasyati nischala samadha vachala buddhihi tada yogam avapsyasi. I like this one because it says that up till now your buddhi had been so bewildered. Vipratipanna means bewildered. When we were sorrowful, we were looking for happiness, and even in that happiness, we were holding on to lovers, we were holding on to new clothes, we were holding on to new religions, we were holding on to so many practices, we were holding on to so many superstitions, and it has a bewildering effect upon us. Why? Just to be calm, just to be tranquil. We were shown so many doors of action. Do this, do this, do this, do this. And so we had been bewildered. So he says your buddhi had been bewildered, but now when your intellect, which had been bewildered, listening to so many vendors, do this, then do that, so many, if you do this, then this will happen, means and end. If you do this, this will happen. If you don't do this, this will happen. All this, now that you're clear and you start abiding later as a result of practicing karma yoga and jnana yoga, which it is taking you to, you start abiding in yourself, in your Atman. And here the word for Atman is samadhau, in your supreme self. Okay, I don't have to go anywhere. I might not have all my answers. Okay, Bhavani doesn't have all her answers, but this much she knows now. I don't have to open any other door except be right here. That itself is a huge clarity. Okay, Vimla may not have everything is not perfect, but she doesn't have to run to one more provider. She can enjoy other people and their practices, etc. But she is not just going, okay, can you fix me? I'm not broken, because now it's just a matter of time. Karma yoga will calm down my worldly life, and Jnana yoga will reveal to me everything that I need to reveal. At least now I know that everything, my happiness in my daily life and my happiness in my spiritual realm. So material realm, karma yoga, spiritual realm, Jnana yoga, is up to me. And you start getting established in samadhau. Samadhau is connected to the word samadhi. And so samadhi was a word in the Veda from samadhau. And samadhi actually originally mean Atman. Later through the Yoga Sutras, it became more like a no mind state. But here he's saying more from the original sense, that you are established in your Atman. When you become, instead of running here and there, at least mentally, intellectually, we say in Hindi, Are Baba re, mujhe kahin nahi jana, mujhe to bas ab yahi baithna hai. I have to go nowhere. I just have to be here. When I'm not able to sort out something, I just know that I'll give it time. Everything is right. This is a huge revelation. Okay. And when you know this due to continued karma yoga in life and submitting to a teacher, Manishina, who is giving you Jnana Yoga, then what happens is two things happen. One is your clarity that everything that I will achieve and have to know is coming from here. It happens, one, without doubt. Without doubt. Okay? The word for without doubt is Nischala here means without error. And yes, Nischala means without error. And ahala means without doubt. So both, there is no error. The doubts come not because you're doubting the teacher at this stage, etc. But this doubt comes because of old erroneous notions. So some doubts may be there. For example, you may fully believe that I am self when you are with me, but the moment you get off the internet, you forget. Some doubts may enter. Was it meant for me Am I really that powerful being? So some doubts may come up. So it takes time for the doubts to go. And the error comes from some erroneous notions because our buddhi doesn't clearly understand. So it's a minor point, but the point is that your clarity is so much that there is now no doubt, no errors, okay? So you become more and more self-dependent. It's a very big difference from being outwardly dependent on your happiness, on your peace, on your completion, on your wholeness. You become self-dependent. So what the scriptures are saying is that, temporarily you can submit on the teacher, on the scripture. Temporarily you can hold on to Ishvara, but actually you shall find that Ishvara is you only. It's inside only. Indians like to say only. So, but I love talking like that because it makes total sense. Sometimes I feel that the way Indians like me speak English has such an amazing impact on teaching, that you are God only. I like it. So you go from an outward God to an inward God. It's amazing. So they are saying, give it time, you shall discover everything. So you are an internal source of security. You are an amazing source of fullness. You are an amazing source of bliss, and it's all within you. So Purnatvam, full. Purna means completion. Anandam, bliss. Abhayatvam, fearlessness. They all will amazing. And all you have to do is, you see, we didn't go inwards because the moment we were born and the moment we started learning A, B, C, D or whatever be our language, boom, we were put out in the world to chase ourselves outside. You see, and so then this is why it's called a U-turn. When you start listening to the Upanishadic teaching, which is now saying, so Upanishad is part of Veda. So Veda first teaches its first part, which you people have, by the way, missed. But that first part, even those rituals, etc., they teach purification and discipline. Then the second part says, get over that. Even that's a kind of a dependence. Because that God that you were pleasing outside with all the yajnas and the fire ceremonies, all that is just symbolic. Everything is inside you. So you start moving towards that, and and you become samadha within the Atma. You become stasyati, you abide with complete clarity. So it doesn't mean that you're self-realized. He's not saying right now that with karma yoga you become fully self-realized. He's just saying this is where you're moving towards. You're moving towards not being bewildered, not being deluded, being very clear, without doubt, without errors in your intellect, that anything I need, I have to go here. That's it. It might be that it's taking a little time. I don't know the art of it. I have to submit some more to my education with my teacher, but I have to find it within me, and my security, my fulfillment, my peace, my wholeness, my approval, my strength, everything lies here. And this is a huge achievement for a karma yogi to have. So and this all started because we stopped trying to grab onto the material fruit from karma artha and trying to develop a whole life resume around it. If we didn't do well in the world in terms of material things or how much wealth we have, how much luxury we are no good, because we made it now secondary so that we can start looking at the spiritual fruit. So with this ends the teaching of karma yoga, at least in chapter 2. In chapter 3, we will revisit karma yoga more from the point of yajnas and the 5 yajnas, etc. in details. But like I said, you can benefit from reviewing. From 11 to 25, you have Jnana Yoga. And then from 26 onwards, there is a change of teaching. And he talks more about the Lokika Dharma, and then he goes deep into the Karma Yoga teachings. So you can really mark 11 to 53 for your self-review and for your knowledge. So, probably not sure if I should teach the next topic or probably I will. So now starts the final topic of the chapter 2, which is a very interesting topic. It talks about how does a jnani, the one who knows karma yoga and who is living by karma yoga and who is pursuing jnana yoga and that knowledge and has realized that knowledge, how does a person who, let's just say Baba, okay, for us Baba is a jnani. He has achieved karma yoga and jnana yoga. He's not only achieved it, but he has taught it to his student who has taught it to you. So his growth shows up, through the changes that I can bring in you. This is through my teacher's fullness. You see, a fruit can be only as strong as the tree. So how do people like Baba, who are jnanis in our tradition? So in the yoga tradition, we say yogi, right? So we say jnani, we like jnani. So in our jnana tradition, we become jnanis. That's our fruit. How does a jnani sit? How does a jnani talk? How does a jnani walk? How do they conduct themselves in difficult, situations? We are curious about that. And so, say you were to not only study the Bhagavad Gita, but say you began to live the Bhagavad Gita, then what would happen to you? Would you develop a halo? Would you, develop wings? Who would you become if you were a jnani? So this is the last discussion. And such a person is known as a person who has a sthita prajna. Prajna means knowledge and sthita means that has become stabilized. Like I said, sometimes in the satsang, when you are sitting there, you feel very powerful. Oh, I have soul power, I have clarity, I have, buddhi. But the moment you start going down and by the time you wear your slippers and pick up your car keys, you're forgotten, right? Because the knowledge is not stable. Does that happen? It's unstable. Yeah. So the longer you stay with your teacher and the longer you contemplate, the whole purpose is to stabilize the knowledge so that that knowledge stays with you. Even on the way, while you are driving your car, you remember I am Atman. When you enter your home, you remember you are Atman. So this is when you're having difficult life experiences, your boss is yelling at you or promoting you, you remember you are Atman. So this is where it is known as Sthita Prajna. So how does such a person behave, etc.? So now Arjuna gets very curious because Arjuna was taught about karma and yoga and jnana yoga. First jnana yoga, then karma yoga. So he starts saying, what is this person like? So he says, Arjuna uvacha, Arjun said, Sthita pragyasya ka bhasha, samadhistasya keshava, sthita dhihi kim prabhasheta, kimasita vrajeta kim. So he says, ka bhasha, how do they speak? How does a jnani speak? How do they communicate? And how do they walk? How do they sit? How do they, in short, he's saying, how do they conduct themselves in day-to-day life? How do they conduct themselves in day-to-day life? So, honestly, this shows Arjuna's ignorance, because this is how materialistic people are. Their expectation is that if you are spiritually realized, you must be doing something strange. You must do something different from the regular people to be spiritual. So he says, how do they talk? As if how do they walk? How do they sit? I mean, they will always sit in Padmasana, it seems. They will not sit in a normal chair. And they won't walk. They'll walk 6 feet above the ground or something, So it's a very typical samsaric kind of thing, We used to ask Baba as children, oh, Baba, when you went to Himalaya and you saw all those yogis, did they never eat anything? Did they always stand on one foot? How were they? As if they were all these strange aliens, doing strange things with their body. This is a typical question that Arjuna has asked because humanity, because he was a soldier, he had not met many spiritual people. So he thought they must be a real weird set, this Jnani must be weirdos, no? How they are very different, So, and Lord answers such a flat answer. He gives such a basic answer, like, that really sets to tone what a real spiritual person is. So the Lord says, so first I want to clarify that he uses this word sthita pragyasya ka bhasha. So he calls the jnani sthita pragyasya. Prajnaha means jnani, and sthita means one whose jnana has become stable. It is free from doubts, from errors, from ambiguity, from vagueness. It doesn't mean that he remembers all the shlokas, but he has clarity. Clarity of the whole map. I am Atma. I just forgot. So I got established with my body, and then my body made all these relations, and then my body became mother-in-law, sister-in-law, daughter-in-law, auntie, uncle. So it just all got confused, but I am Atma. So it's very clear. This is called a sthita pragyasya. Okay. So he calls them sthita pragyasya. Another word he uses for them is samadhistasya. So these are all adjectives. Samadhistasya means one who is established in samadho, in the Atma. What are these people like? So he asks these very basic questions, So the Lord answers, Bhagavan Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmanyavatmana Tushtaha Sthita Pragyasya Tadochyate. Again, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, very important line, shloka, please mark for yourself, shloka 45. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmanyavatmana Tushtaha Sthita Pragyas Tadochyate. So two statements are very important here. He says these people are marked over and above by two behaviors or two ways of they show two ways of living in life. One of them is, you can mark this line, Atmanne Vatmana Tushtaha. Atmanne Vatmana Tushtaha means they are pleased with themselves. They are self-content. Why are they self-content? They are self-content because they have become very clear that my freedom, my bliss, my completion, my fulfillment, my acknowledgement does not lie in this world. It does not lie there. It lies within me. So they are quite self-content. Okay, they have stopped chasing anything. There are two kinds of desires. I'll talk about that later. But they definitely don't have vasanas. When vasana is a kind of desire, three kinds. One is body, where we are always trying to give body more comfort, more pleasure. And the other is world desire, where we want the world to approve us, including family, recognize us. And the third is knowledge vasana, where we are always grabbing onto more words and degrees and things to complete ourselves. So one is at a body level vasana, which is body vasana, and world vasana occurs at the mind level, and knowledge vasana occurs at the intellect level. So these are like three hypnotic vasanas. And if you are a karmi, you're just chasing artha kama in these vasanas. But ajnani, they will show that they are quite relaxed. They are self-content. Okay. So one is this point, that they will show that they are Atmane Vatmana Tushtaha. Tushta means, another name for Mother Durga is Tushti. Tushta means one who is just fulfilled. One is just relaxed. It's a beautiful feeling. You have also experienced it, but then the moment another desire comes and boom, it goes away, you know. But temporarily, after, if you're hungry and you get a good meal, then for 10 minutes you feel tushti. Do you not? What if you were all the time tushta in the world? Then you can go everywhere in the biggest mall, but you're full of your own self. So you don't need all this. So it comes from clarity. So they have this, they are self-pleased, self-content, self-fulfilled. And the other one that they show is Sarvan Kaman Manogatan. What they do is they give up. They give up trying to, they renounce all their, they renounce all their expectations from this material world that things should go a certain way. If they are going a certain way, okay. If they're not going a certain way, okay. Because they have been working in karma yoga and they have been renouncing the fruit of their actions. So I must clarify that there is vasanas that they completely give up. But even for the spiritual people, for the karma yogis, there are two kinds of desires. One is legitimate, one is illegitimate. The illegitimate desires are the vasanas. 99% people are just round and round, going around in vasanas. These people not give up vasanas, but the kind of desires they retain, they are called purushartha. And in purushartha also, they are focusing more on dharma moksha. And in dharma moksha also, the kind of basic desires, there are three qualities that we should try our desires to meet those. One is they should be legitimate. So they should be not vasana, but a purushartha. Number two, they should be moderate. What does moderate mean? Means that, okay, you know, there has to be an end to how much something is met for you. And the third thing is non-binding. So non-binding means something can be a preference. I can have a preference that I complete certain amount of chapters before my physical body cannot teach it. But if it's not a preference, if it becomes binding, like then what it will do is it will create pressure within me. I'll be yelling and scolding you people, you know, and we'll all get stressed out and a lot of bad karma will be created as a result. So so the way jnanis have desires is, first of all, they are legitimate. They are moderate. They are not extremes. And they are non-binding. They are only preferences. So even if they have karma, it's legitimate karma, you know, it is moderate and it is non-binding. And, you know, and in general, artha kama is secondary to dharma moksha. Another thing, I should tell you that there is something called ashuddha kama, impure kama, and shuddha kama. In shuddha kama, even Shankaracharya had shuddha kama. Shankaracharya had the shuddha kama that, okay, I should write the Tattva Bodh. Vyasacharya, for whom we are celebrating Guru Purnima, in general had this shuddha desire, pleasure. It gave him pleasure to write the Bhagavad Gita. You know, Baba had shuddha kama to do so many things, from Arogya Mandala to teaching Atma Bodha Yoga, to teaching Ayurveda, to keeping Gurukulam, to bringing female students to come and study. He had all these shuddha kamas. They were also giving him pleasures. You know, this was pleasure, but it was shuddha. It was shuddha or pure because it was not binding. It was moderate. It was legitimate. If it happened, it happened. If it didn't happen, it didn't turn him into a bitter, angry, nasty person. Because the first one, he was self-content all the time. So the first one, they are self-content. Atmana eva atmana tushtaha. The number two is sarva karma tyaga, means they give up all the impure artha kama bhavnas. All those impure artha kamas they have just given up. And that doesn't mean they're just sitting like that. Oh, I will not. You know, they are normal people. Like I said, they also have some desires, but the way they are working with those desires, they are free. Those desires have not captured them in their sense of peace, you know. So, you know, another word for kama, you don't know this, but another meaning for kamaha means dependence. Kamaha means pleasure and kahama means dependence also. So all our pleasures create dependence. Would you agree? Can you show me your hands? They do. So interesting that, the same word can be used. So we carefully approach kama, okay? And they leave it where there's another word in this manogatan. For all the other people, these desires in manogatan, they are like worms. For everybody else in the head, they are constantly, these vasanas are constantly, I must get this, I must get that, and that never got fulfilled, and I was so unlucky here, and this and that. It's all the time going on. But for these people, they have come into a place of self-fulfillment, and they have let go of a whole bunch of them. Well, it's not my circus, not my monkeys, I'm not interested. They're like that. So they are very relaxed people. Let's just say that is one thing. And this dropping of the desires, it doesn't come because the grapes are sour. It comes from purnatvam, or comes from a sense of the first one, atmaneva atmanatushta. They come from a sense of fullness. See, if you have ever seen a fruit tree, first, before the fruit comes, the flower comes. Okay. After the flower, when the fruit has to come, the flower starts fading away. Do you know that? Or the flower petals will fall away, then the fruit will come. In the same way, when the person's fruit of inner joy has to come, the outer flower of these petty little transient pleasures just fall away. It's not so important. So it's a dropping. It's not a suppression of the desire. There's a difference. And that is why we never suppress desires. We convert them from impure to pure. We convert them from non-binding to binding, from binding to non-binding, from vasana to purushartha, from focus on artha kama to making sure there is dharma moksha, even converting impure artha kama to pure artha kama, from ensuring that they are not binding, really examining them, and then trusting the universe and Ishvara that whatever is meant to be. I'm writing a book. I can have a preference that 1,000 people read it, mainly, or maybe only 100 people read it. So it should not be a binding, and this comes from karma yoga. I can only do my part and leave the fruit on Ishvara, whatever he wants. So one thing, he, instead of saying, look, Arjuna was asking, look how the teacher responds. How does he sit? How do they talk? How do they walk? He's asking such a gross level, sthula question about spiritual people, What does he wear? What color robes he wears? Maybe he's asking all that. And look at what Lord Krishna answers. They are very content and they are not crazy after desires. So sometimes the teacher does not even recognize or acknowledge the question of the teacher, of the student, and responds in the right way. So it's really beautiful. I love this conversation. And actually, it's a teaching to the world. Let's stop looking at the outer transformation of the body as to how people are standing, how they are walking, what are they wearing for spiritual things. Look at, who they are inside them. That is more important. And then the next one is the very important shloka. Very important. It's my father's favorite shloka. So I called him today and I said, I might teach your favorite shloka. I heard it once a week from him. So, and he lives like that. So this one is, then he is further explaining how do they respond to how do they respond to circumstances, or how do they respond to the opposites, sorrow and joy coming their way. How do they respond? So how do we respond? When joy comes, we get very excited. And when sorrow comes, we get very, very deflated, right? So he says, when we become a jnani, and by the way, this teaching, don't think this is so far from me. What do I have to do with this? No. Actually, what happens is in the second chapter itself, Lord is teaching us this. Why? It has two purposes. One, you as a student can have this as an ideal to move towards. That's one thing. Instead of having an ideal that, I should know all 1,000 mantras of the Vedas, this is my ideal of spiritual growth. And number two, you can look at it and see where you are genuinely at. And, this will prevent you from having, it will keep you motivated to keep moving forward. So to look at the goal, what you're going to look like at the end. And you can also, Baba said to me, you can imagine yourself like this. Somebody had asked me a question about faking it, making it. So it has really helped imagining that this is my capacity, because this is how if myself and my mind were fully, self is always there. Mind grows in its awareness of the self, right? So it's not like the self is something else, mind is something else, but the mind is just an equipment of the self which gradually becomes capable of connecting with its own truth. Initially it cannot, initially it can only connect a dot, and gradually. So if your mind and yourself are totally connected, this is how you will behave. It's good to know, So he says, dukheshu udvignamanaha, sukheshu vigatasprihaha, vitaraga bhaya krodha, sitadhira muniruchyate. Dukheshu anudvignamanaha, sukheshu vigatsprihaha, vitaraga bhaya krodha, sitadhira muniruchyate. So this is my last shloka, which I shall teach you, and I'm just feeling joyous to teach you this. So this shloka says that the jnani is one who is free from excitement or, craving amidst pleasures. Because what pleasures do is, if you get pleasure, it tends to make you addicted. It makes you want to have more pleasure. So they become free from the cravings for more pleasure, amidst pleasure, when they're having pleasure. And usually our mind gets very disturbed amongst problems. So the mind also becomes relatively calm, or almost pretty calm, unperturbed, even during troubles. And typically, we have studied about raga, moha, So here he's saying that this mind, they are free from moha, raga, attachment, bhaya, fear, and anger. So this is another triangle that Lord explains, which I shall explain to you. So how does he respond? First, let me explain how does he respond to difficult situations. No. So just because somebody has become a jnani, so actually this Lord Krishna has clarified something which a lot of people kind of just, the miracle band of teachers kind of try to say that all the problems will go away. But Lord Krishna has very clearly said that there is, even if when you become a jnani, there is some prarabdha, some leftover karma, say for the body or something else that might still be left over. And this prarabdha may have been created by the same jnani when they were not a jnani. When we were ignorant, we all teachers were once ignorant. So in other lifetimes, and probably in that same lifetime too. So we create karmas, because of which there is some, rebound effect of some sorrowful karma or some good karma. So that karma has to be borne out. Prarabdha, you cannot jump the gun. So that will come and go. So therefore, a jnani, but the way they respond to it is different. And the first one is anudvigna manaha. Anudvigna manaha means they do not get unstable. So when your jnana becomes stable, you will find that, interestingly, when the problem comes, your jnana doesn't move or shift, or you don't forget it, or it's not lost. Somebody had asked me that question some time ago, I believe. I forget. So I had said, give it time. So the more jnani, problem is there, 100% problem is there, but 100% knowledge will also be there. And as a result, anudvigna manaha means there will be great emotional strength. And that emotional strength will absorb the shock. It's not suppress the shock or stiff upper lip. That the knowledge will be so much bigger than the problem, that the person will have minimal disturbance. Okay, minimal disturbance. And even in this disturbance, let me explain to you that at different places, the Shastra has explained that, it explains that gradually as you continue with Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, these difficult problems, they don't just one day they will go away. 4 things will change, and you can notice that. You can write this. One is frequency. How frequently will you get disturbed? You will notice that the frequency of your mental disturbance, agitation, disturbance, you're not feeling content, peaceful, cheerful, this will reduce agitation, mental disturbance. So one is you will see a change in frequency slowly. Then intensity will also change. If there is maximum intensity, there is mental disturbance, then it will reach your vak, and you will take out curse words, or you will say things to people or to yourself, So then vak, and if the mental disturbance is even more, then first mind, then speech, and then with your hand you will hit somebody or you will throw a cup. So body also will get involved. But the intensity, you might find that, okay, now your body is not acting out. Now your speech is not saying. You're not even saying, oh, shoot. You're not saying anything. You're calmer. Or maybe you're saying, oh, Krishna, please remind me of my teachings that my teacher gave me. So now your speech is calm. Then later your mind has also come. So it happens slowly. I just want to give you this Advaitic teaching of how we look at our mind. So one is frequency, one is intensity. And you can look whether your mental disturbance, you get so agitated that all 3 things get affected, or 1 thing, or 2 things, or all, speech, body, mind. Calm. Slowly it will change. Third place you will notice is recovery period. Initially, for some people, recovery happens, it's minor disturbance, 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, few years. Some people whole lifetime, then trauma, never recovers. But the more your emotional health improves, the more your recovery period will be shorter and quicker and quicker. And the type of situation, sometimes some people get, most of us, 99% of us, get disturbed in unfavorable situations. And when we are unstable, even favorable situations unsettle us. Like you can get a heart attack from a good news. It actually happens to people. If they win a lottery, they die. Yeah. So see how unstable the mind is. So there is no expectation that you'll be studying, and one day as a jnani, suddenly you don't react. But even as a student, you can notice frequency, intensity, recovery, and type of situation. We don't want, even in difficult situation, you want anudvigna manaha. And even in happy situation, sukheshu vigata sprahaha. Sprahaha means greed. And vigat means you won't feel any greed. Oh, I should have more pleasure, more pleasure. You will be calm. And that is how a jnani is. A jnani is, jnanis, because of their knowledge, which has not, it is not just intellectual, it has converted into a conviction, it has converted into an emotional strength. So their consciousness at the time of difficulty is bigger than the difficulty, or bigger than the award or the happiness. It's bigger. And when it's bigger, it doesn't get like a child excited or sorrowful. And so therefore, this is how a person is sthita. One is established, calm in this. This is how their mind behaves in favorable. They are not greedy. They don't want more. They don't start manipulating, planning, daydreaming, going crazy. And even in difficult situations, they don't want to just be shattered. They have samatvam. Again, that word, samatvam means balance, equanimity. And because of that equanimity, the next line, that's one of my very wonderful lines, which I thought a lot about as I matured in my life, was the next one is Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. Vita means freedom. Raga means attachments. Bhaya means fear. Krodha means anger. So in other times, I have taught you a relationship between moha. Moha leads to shoka. When you don't get what you want, it leads to sorrow, shoka, self-pity. And then self-pity leads to krodha, anger. And anger leads to moha, delusory or projected anger. Do you remember this? Yeah. That's one way of the samsara activating. This is another algorithm that Lord is giving. He's such a psychologist, and he says, first you will have moha, attachment. And we all have attachments what? On insecure people. Okay. So we all have attachments on insecure people. Because we are attachment, I am dependent. So, and I feel insecure, I have attachment, then I feel insecure. So I have raga. So I have raga on things in the world and this people. And I know deep down that they are also insecure. Because of all this insecurity plus insecurity is equal to more insecurity. So I feel very insecure. Because of this insecurity, I feel fear, bhaya. I feel really, really fear. And because of fear, I have bhayam. So it says, yatra yatra yagaha tatra tatra bhayam. Wherever there is attachment, wherever there is fear. Because this is our basic algorithm of the human being. We are constantly holding on to things. Okay, I'll hold on to this person. Okay, I'll hold on to this retirement plan. Okay, I will not hold on. Unintelligent people, they will go on holding to insecure things. They will neither find security within themselves. They will neither find security with the guru. They will neither find security with Ishvara. These are the places we are saying temporarily have security. No, they will try to go on having security in their relationship, in this, in that, all the mithya places. And they will go on feeling fear as a result. Because even they will say to their lover, do you love me? I love you, honey, or whatever people say. After that, they go to bed and they're saying, I don't know if they love me or if I should check the phone, I should do this, I should do that. Oh, the neighbor is like that, or this person is like that. All the fear is going on, or the boss says, yes, we really like your job. But then the next person comes who's very competent from a very good organized, college or something. And the person thinks, oh, maybe now I will lose my job. Maybe that person has come to take my job. So there's constant insecurity. So moha leads to bhaya, fear. And because of that fear, to overcome that fear, we get really upset. And because of that upsetting, it leads to anger, even anger with God. So this is another triangle: moha, attachment, and attachment, fear, anger. Attachment, fear, anger. Attachment, fear, anger. And all of this leads to delusion or moha. And we become confused. But he's saying that when you become a jnani, you will be vita raga bhaya krodha. You will be free of this, because you will no longer be depending upon your emotional dependence. So physical dependence, you may still depend upon the grocery store, and you may depend upon somebody, providing for you or cooking for you or whatever. But emotional dependence will not be upon you, on anyone else, because you are a jnani. You understand jnana and karma yoga's message, not because you think those people are a bunch of losers, but because you have realized that everything lies within you. It's a positive inward movement. As a result, my dears, you will become what is known as, the last line here, Sthita Dhira Muni Ruchyate, which means you will become a Muni. There's another word being introduced here, Muni, M-U-N-I-H, Muni, or M-U-N-I, which means you'll become a saint-like person, a seer, a sage-like person. And here Baba used to say, and Bade Baba has also written in his commentary, that a seer is not somebody who is wearing certain robes or has a beard or is wearing a mala. A seer, we don't realize it, we don't recognize it, that such a person who is dukkeshu udvignamana, in difficulty, he is emotionally balanced. So keshu vigadaspraha, in spite of pleasures, he is not out there busy trying to, stack up his pleasure ducks, one after another. Who is free? Vitaraga bhaya krodha, who is free of attachments and attachment-based fear and anger. Who is sthita, who is such an established muni, might well be a family person, might just be wearing regular clothes, might just be Manat Munihi, one who has the right knowledge, but is a householder. And we may not recognize that, oh my God, this person is a Jnani. So in our Vedanta tradition, a Jnani can be very much a householder, very much an ordinary person. And we say, oh no, how this person, they are just standing normally, sitting normally, eating normally. But the way they respond to joy and sorrowful circumstances is completely different. And the way they don't depend upon others for their emotional fulfillment, but are completely independent and complete unto themselves. This is what separates a Jnani from a learning person. And this is the beautiful teaching. And I will stop here. Today on Guru Purnima, I taught one of my living teachers' favorite shloka. Because I saw in my father that when great sorrow came to him, he tried to establish calmness. And I still find that he has not, he's level-headed in spite of any good stuff coming to him. This is good. So I will stop here, and we will, continue studying about this Sthita Pragya. And like I said, these become your ideals. And this also becomes, it's such an eye-opener for us that spirituality is such a cool and simple and, it should remain ordinary in the from an external perspective. If it becomes too pompous or different outwardly, there is clearly something missing that a person or a teacher or a sampradaya is trying to make up in the external. All the transformation, true transformation, always happens at the subtle level, at the emotional level, not at the physical level alone, or at all. Even one can be completely free of it. And one of the ways we can see our teacher also is if that teacher also is somewhat level-headed in their experience of sorrow and joy, and are they suffering from the disease of attachment, fear and anger, or are they free from it? So these are some of very wonderful guidelines for us as students of this tradition, both as students and for teachers and for future teachers. It's a wonderful guideline, and this is where we are proceeding. And what is really beautiful was that there is no suppression of desire anywhere, but there is an understanding of how much fulfillment can I have from an illusion-filled world, vasanas, and how much can I look within. So it really gives us permission to go for a more deeper spiritual quest than ever before. So I'm going to stop here. I feel like we had a good teaching. So we are stopping at shloka 46. Yeah, 56. So now I'm opening the floor for any questions. If you have any or comments, you're welcome to make. It was also really beautiful. I just want to say this also around, how you see your mind slowly change. And so then you can give yourself credit, and so not have a black and white, am I pass or fail, but look at the frequency, intensity, recovery, and favorable, unfavorable, how you behave. And in them, frequency, intensity, recovery, so that you can slowly move your mind towards a more equanimous state with understanding. So I'm open for questions.
Looks like Arjuna has a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jay Ma. The sound went out, so you said there were 4 things that would change: frequency, intensity, recovery, and I lost the last one.
Frequency, intensity, recovery, and type of situation, favorable or unfavorable.
Okay. So the other thing I was thinking too is that in 54, where Arjuna is asking him, they're all outward things, aren't they? You know, how do you sit? How do you stand? How do you? It's like it's all kind of picture. You know, it's not to do with the inside.
And this is the brilliance of Vyasacharya. How he shows that how our typical human students' consciousness, when they go to a teacher, is they are looking at outward signs.
Right. Yeah.
Is the teacher sitting in samadhi or not? Is the teacher, those kind of things.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
And the Krishna just ignores that and answers the internal state, which shows that's the real deal. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? All right. Oh, looks like Connie has a question.
Mm-hmm.
Jima. So we were talking about desires, and that desires should be legitimate and moderate and non-binding. And when you were explaining this, it occurred to me that, especially I think as a new student like me, it would be hard to discern what is legitimate and what is not. And how does one figure that out? Does one sit with it, meditate on it?
Okay. So, I mean, just to answer all of you, the legitimate desires are known as purushartha. And I think if you look in the internet, you will find my teachings on purushartha. So, artha kama are part of our purushartha. Where do they become a vasana? So, vasanas, when artha kama is pursued without paying adherence to dharma, what will the effect of my pursuing artha and kama? When I am taking care of my survival, my wealth, my relationships, my pleasures, my comfort, my. Okay, go ahead, do it. But what impact is it having on others? My family members, my village, my community, my society? Dharma consciousness can go on increasing. I know that when sometimes I counsel some minds and they are so collapsed that they are not even thinking of the impact of their behavior on their own children or on their own parents or even on themselves. For example, we are drinking alcohol every night. We know that it is damaging our liver, but we're drinking. So we're so collapsed just in karma, right? So even though karma has been given to us as a legitimate, you can enjoy yourself. In fact, Ayurveda has said that you can drink wine and wine is good for your heart. Okay, this is a statement in Charak Samhita. But so this is a very interesting medicinal recommendation. And he says that one of the reasons wine is good for the heart is because it gives pleasure. And pleasure is good for the heart. So it's such a profound teaching, which we are all discovering now. But he's nowhere saying that become an alcoholic, don't stop, etc., etc. So a legitimate desire becomes illegitimate when it becomes completely self-absorbed, self-damaging, self-sabotaging, and community damaging, family damaging. So there is no adherence to dharma. So that's one way you can know that a proper purushartha has become a vasana, because vasana is like, let me have more. I don't care what impact I'm having. My pleasure is important. That is where a mother or a father may leave their child home alone to be with a lover, because my need is more important, when we are all aware of this. So nobody's saying you can't have a lover, but when you are so consumed with your needs, then it has become a vasana. And it's not like it's a crime. We can come back from it. We can learn from it. But what we don't want is to stay there. We all get consumed by vasanas. That's the human situation. But the whole point of spirituality is to be shown the algorithm that, look, that's a vasana, don't go there. So it's a very good question, Connie. So naturally, if you have studied about gunas, because you're a new student, but you might come across it soon, Lord will talk about it. But rajas and tamas, wherever they are more in the mind, probably there'll be a desire for more, and more fulfillment, more needs, more desires, because desires give birth to desires, becomes vasana. And more selfishness will be there. But if you bring in dharma, then it becomes probably more legitimate. So that's one. Number two, so don't allow a purushartha to become a vasana. And then you also need to bring in a moksha consideration, because sometimes we think that, okay, whatever I do, I always take care of dharma. Like in my case, I can give you my example that, what example should I give? But pretty much I try to take care of all my behaviors that, my students depend on me, my students have me in their altar, my students look up to me. How should I behave? What should be my energy so that they are protected? How should I live my life? So I'm always paying attention. So I'm always trying to bring in dharma into everything I do. Yeah, nothing is coming to my mind. But the point I'm trying to tell you is that you don't want to stop your train at dharma. The next goal is moksha. And moksha is what makes it non-binding, because ultimately you should know that artha, kama, dharma, these all belong to the material plane. And dharma makes it better, more noble. But ultimately moksha is, you should also know your own fulfilled self. You should know that you have to spend time educating yourself. You have to take out time for satsang. You have to take out time for meditation. You have to take out time for contemplation. And in nobody's life, there is room for meditation, contemplation, solitude, silent time, transcription, writing a blog, spiritual contemplation. These are all moksha purushartha activities. So I think there has to be emphasis upon both dharma and moksha. So even when I am teaching you right now, Connie, okay, I don't think it's taking care of my artha at all at this point, what I'm doing for you. But it's definitely a pure karma, in the sense that when I'm teaching Bhagavad Gita, it's a privilege and a pleasure also. Such a joy to teach it. As it's a joy for you to hear it, as is a joy for me to teach it. So it's a Shuddha karma, pure karma. But largely it is dharma based. I have made a commitment I have received from my teacher. It's a yajna. I have promised that I will give back. So I'm giving back. I put it on my schedule. I try to be available, try to prepare for it. I make notes for it. So that when I'm teaching you, I can move fast, because we have only short time. But that doesn't mean that this is it. I can't just get stuck on just doing dharma, dharma, dharma also. I also need to remember I am Atman. I also need to know I am Brahman. I also need to remember, find God in me. I need to spend some private time with myself. So all these things together make things more illegitimate or legitimate. Does this make sense, Connie, to you? Yeah?
Yes. Thank you. It does clarify a lot. I understand more about how to discern that.
Yeah.
But
And
I know it's...
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it takes, I understand, a lot of introspection and self-inquiry, I think, especially...
Yeah. And you're a relatively new student. There are many new students here, and there are many old students also who are newly revisiting this topic. I think that now that you are here, don't gift yourself the luxury of time to contemplate and to break down into it layer by layer. But I had sent out a karma yoga raw draft, a chapter, in which I have shown how you can lead attached actions with more rajas, more tamas, and more sattva. So try to have more sattva in your artha kama also. That is what I would say.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And this also, Lord clarified that it is not that if you are a jnani and you're leading your life, you don't have any karma at all. You're like a pleasureless zombie, but they are pure.
Are there any other questions? Nidhi?
The ones that are good for all, unselfish. So you actually answered it very beautifully, and in fact more than what I had asked. So, and the second question I have is, so I was very happy to hear verse 56 today. My question is, what should be the relationship between intellect and emotions? Actually, this is the first time I'm hearing the word emotions in a very, in Bhagavad Gita. Actually, I never thought of hearing this term in Bhagavad Gita. You've explained it so nicely today. And how can we use emotions in Gyan Yoga? Because we have more control over our intellect, and we think that we can discern and we can decide this is right, this is wrong, this is good karma, this is probably not that good, this is good for all, this is selfish, I shouldn't do that. But emotions are they're they're out of our control most of the time. And how do we control them? And what should be the relationship between our intellect and our emotions, and how can we use our emotions in our progress?
Yeah. So the bhavana, the emotion is very important actually. The reason you don't hear a lot about emotions, you hear about it later, actually the entire bhakti yoga is about purifying our emotions. Entire bhakti yoga, and the entire bhakti towards guru, towards God, is not intellectual but emotion based. So actually the Western approach is that you go directly for the emotions and you try to, so they say things like, they work on the emotions a lot, let's just say that. Okay. But I question that, and I'll tell you why. Because the Eastern approach, the Vedic approach of first reminding you that your soul and you are the boss of your equipment, and you have a hierarchy of equipments. And in this hierarchy, you have your number one manager called Buddhi.
Mm.
And most of the time, the Buddhi is not a manager until you tell it to manage. These things are all missing in the Western psychology.
Mm-hmm.
For them, everything is a mind and everything all just lives there. But here we have a hierarchy in the mind. So on the very top is soul, Atma. And then under that is ego. But actually there can be intellect before that. So first there is Atma, you. Then you can all draw this. Then there is intellect, Buddhi. Okay. Then there is ego called Ahamkara. Okay. And then this ego talks to memory faculty called Smriti. And it talks to emotional faculty called mind, Manas. Emotions live here. Your fear, anger, they live here. And Smriti and the mind talks to sense organs. Okay. And sense organs talk to the world outside. So you see, there's all this interfaces going on. But the missing piece here was the intellect. And what the Veda tells us is that the intellect is your sleeping faculty. Please awaken it. It is the closest to you. And the purpose of the intellect is wisdom. And the purpose of the mind, lower mind, is to feel. Okay. The purpose of the ego is to keep it all coherent as a story, narrative. Purpose of the memory is to remind you of previous learning. Okay. There is a purpose for the world also, to challenge you, give you new learning. And the purpose of the sense organs is to navigate in the world. Okay. But in all of this, if you don't have the discriminating wisdom faculty called soul, called intellect, you cannot really actually go in and manage your emotions also. They're just all just going everywhere. You can't manage your memories also. They just come whenever they want to. And then they take over your reality. Suddenly you are studying satsang, suddenly you remembered something 20 years ago, that's it, class finished. So, bhavana is very important, and in fact, that is why. But you see, Vedic psychology doesn't begin at the lower end, which is all the time changing. How shall I tell you, Nidhi, to purify your anger if I first don't remind you that you're an all-powerful person because you're soul? So the teachings about bhavana will come later. But what happens is, by the time you remember you are Atma Brahman and you have an intellect and you start making better choices, all the emotions themselves get purified. Whereas in Western psychology, we keep working on the lower end. Do you see the difference? I'm not trying to badmouth the Western psychology because it has some great teachings also. I'm just teaching because they don't have concept of soul. And they don't have concept of soul being, and the Western concept of soul is everybody has a separate soul. The soul also gets punished. The soul gets rewarded. Over here in the Vedic concept, soul is God. It's all, so you are all powerful, Nidhi. If you are all powerful, and if I keep reminding you of how powerful you are, then will your emotions serve you or disturb you? You please tell me that. They will help you. So even though I have more teachings coming up on emotions, but at the same time, we don't just focus there. First, we focus a lot at the intellect level, and karma yoga and jnana yoga are both happening at the intellect level. So much so that karma yoga is called buddhi yoga. And jnanam, and the intellect then decides what it wants to do. But the reason emotional conviction is important is because emotional conviction is important right down to the lowest level, at the level of the mind, where you emotionally feel like, I can feel all my feelings, but my God, they are divine. I feel my divine feeling, my experience, you know. I remember being a child, and, you know, I've had a blissful childhood. And prior to my mother dying and all, so I had a really wonderful childhood. And it became a foundation for who I am today. And in my experience with Baba, meditating with him at the Sarayu, having a happy childhood, praying morning and night, climbing trees, I remember feeling emotionally part of the divine fabric. Like my emotions were divine. You know. Now I have that memory, and it happens again to me when I'm in nature, when I'm teaching, when I'm with God, you know. So I hope I could explain myself to you. So we don't spend a lot of time there. We spend time where we can make a change. Can I see because maybe he's a relatively new student. Some of you have been studying this, and you know, you may not have had guidance on me on emotions, but you've had guidance on that you are Atman and you're much more powerful than you thought you were. And did you see a concurrent change in your emotions? Any hands? Yeah. At the same time, we do want that your knowledge of who you are doesn't remain only at buddhi level. Your ego also believes that. Your mind also believes it. Your memory also starts reigniting. Ultimately, we are reigniting your memory. Actually, deep down, you know you are that Brahman. Deep down, you know it. Because you know you are Brahman, that is why you want happiness. Because you know you are Brahman, that is why you want health. Because you know you are Brahman, that is why you want unconditional love. Because you know you are Brahman, that is why you don't want to be abused. Because you know you are royalty. You know it. You know it. And you know, if you meet a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and you say, who is the most beautiful person? Me. Who is the most important person? Me. Who is the most special person? Me. If that 2-year-old has not been hurt or, you know, scolded or damaged, unfortunately in our society, even that happens. But you go for the younger one, they have no qualms. We say they are children. Let them become adults. Then they will become pathetic. Then we'll feel good. Right? Because they've had memory failure by that time. You know. But let us say, forget 2-year-old. When that new baby comes, baby has memory. So baby just lies back and smiles. Baby is lying in poop. Baby is very pleased. Baby is very pleased with oneself. Oh, look at me, I'm royal. But then we forget. And that is why in a certain lifetime, if we can go on listening to this knowledge, we will change, and then our behavior will become like a jnani. But you know, in the jnani's behavior, you're not seeing things like the person is having ecstasy, bliss. The thing is that we don't talk like that in the Jnana Yoga tradition, because when we say something like the person has purnatvam or atmaeva atmana tushtaha, when we are saying that, it actually means the person is blissful. Our language is different. We are not, you know, saying ecstasy. We're not saying, oh, the person is all the time smiling, because to us that will feel foolish. What does that mean? But if you are quietly pleased with yourself, that means that you are already operating from bliss. So for us, bliss, we should not confuse it with pleasures. Ananda is not some pleasure, not some thrill. Ananda is an inward fullness. where you're not needy, not begging, not bothered, not frustrated. You're serene, you're peaceful, you're comfortable, you're enjoying, you're spontaneous, you're creative. That's beautiful. So I think that answers your questions on bhava, emotion. And that is why one of the things we can do to purify all our negative emotions like jealousy, rage, and all of that is to pick up some chanting or to, or to weep in nature and just kind of purge things. And the more we change our buddhi, the more everything will change for us.
Shunya, there's one question from Shreya. In my experience, I believe karma yoga and seva are vehicles for emotional purification. Is this correct?
Yeah, or to be even more precise, we can say, Shreya, that for ego purification. Because remember, the ego was always wanting to do something for itself. The ego says in karma yoga, what do I get? What is in it for me? But in seva, it is told that, you may not get anything. On top of that, you will have to give your time, your skill, your effort, and you are only paying back your debt, your yajna to Brahman, and, and your ego should find the reward in the doing, not in the result. So, but anything that purifies the ego, by default, purifies the emotion. So that is there, because so that is why seva has a huge impact when it is done properly. It has a huge impact on you understand seva from your intellect. You do it and your ego has these little sounds where it says, wait, why am I doing it? Why do I care? Why do I bother? Somebody got a more important seva, I got a less important seva, or my seva takes more time. And all these sounds come, but your intellect says, goes to satsang, and the intellect says, come on, Shreya, don't think like that. That's not real. That's a projection. So you do some housekeeping. So the more, then the person's ego starts calming down. The sounds start calming down. The person becomes more and more peaceful. Emotions become more and more peaceful. It happens. So correct. You're correct. Okay, so it's 9 a.m. Happy Guru Purnima. And enjoy yourselves. Jai Ma, everyone. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amridam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. We are very fortunate to be studying the Bhagavad Gita, which has been composed by Rishi Vyasa Acharya, to whom we also trace our ancestry. We are very fortunate to be studying it on the night of Guru Purnima, which is Guru Purnima in India, where he was born. So we are deeply grateful for our karmas and our purusharthas and our pure kamas that have led us towards the teaching and the learning of this great scripture. Truly blessed. Jai Ma.